Hello, my friends. In this video, we'll be exploring autosomal DNA results, predicted phenotype traits, and GED match results of a Neolithic period Siberian from the Baikal region right here. Irkutskaya Oblast, really cold place by the shores of the Lake Baikal. The sample name is irk071. It is labeled irk071 because it is located next to the city of Irkutsk by the shores of Lake Baikal. Now, in terms of the time period, it is 33 centuries before the Common Era being referred to the time of the birth of Christ, which is the Neolithic period in Europe. So this is the Neolithic period for Europe. I don't know what period it is for Siberia. For Siberia, it is probably still very far in the Stone Age, but it is labeled as Siberian Neolithic, Baikal Neolithic. So we're gonna call it Neolithic for them too. Um, for the YDNA here is Q1b BZ2222, but the most precise YDNA my trait predictor was able to determine for this individual is Q1, and mitochondrial DNA for this sample is actually D4J21. Very interesting mitochondrial DNA. I don't know much about mitochondrial DNA, so I can't really tell you what D4J21 mitochondrial DNA implies, but about Q1 YDNA, I can tell you that Q1 YDNA is a very Native American patrilineal lineage. It's very stereotypically Native American. Most Native American patrilineal lineages, it's the most typical patrilineal lineage for Native Americans. So Q1 patrilineal lineage is very typical for Native Americans. And this individual from Siberia, from right here in the Baikal, from the shores of Baikal Lake, has a patrilineal lineage that is very stereotypically Native American. But I guess it is not even that unusual um, for people from Siberia to have these types of lineages. Now let's see what he scores with Eurogenske 36. With Eurogenske 36, this individual is scoring 60.24% Siberian, 11.4% East Central Asian, 9.87% Amerindian. I'm not really sure if it's typical to score that much Amerindian for somebody from Siberia. I feel like it's a little bit high. I don't expect this much Amerindian, so maybe he's scoring a little bit too much Amerindian. 6% East Asian, 6% Volga-Ural, 3% South Asian, 1% Finno-Scandian, actually 1.8% Finno-Scandian, 0.5% Oceanian, and 0.2% Malayan. And with the mixed mode oracle, he's actually getting more as a mixture of Tuvan plus Chukchi as the closest one way, and Buryat plus Chukchi as the closest two way for the second mixture. Uh, Actually, it's all closest two way, but first closest is Tuvan plus Chukchi, and the second closest is Buryat plus Chukchi. And it looks like he's basically a mixture of Siberian, Central Siberian plus Chukchi, or some kind of Arctic peoples. So it looks like I'm gonna make a guess that the reason he's scoring these Arctic groups is because of the 9.8% Amerindian he's scoring. I feel like the Amerindian is the reason he's scoring Chukchi for the secondary population here, or 58% Chukchi plus 41% Kalmyk, or 55% Chukchi plus 44% Kyrgyz. I feel like the reason he's scoring Chukchi is because of the 9.87% Amerindian. That's what I'm guessing here. But yes, there is clearly a little bit of an Native American affinity in this individual's result. But overall, he's quite a typical Siberian. Let's try to run him through Eurogenske 13 and see what he scores there. Let's see that. While this is going on, let's see what he scores with my own ethnicity calculator. This might be interesting as well. So the closest group here is actually Polynesian, which is kind of funny, but I think that group is based on one individual and it's kind of like a low quality sample, so we can ignore that. The second closest is Mongol, and the third closest is Turkic, and then Yakutia. Hold on, we're not done there. And then Yakutia Neolithic, and then Kipchak Turkic, and then Kazakh, and then Jamon from Japan. So if we ignore the low quality Polynesian sample and we only look at the high quality samples, then it looks like it's all Mongols and Turks and Yakutia and everything that makes sense, right? So if we look at the overall, the general picture, it looks quite good. And the two-way closest models, it looks like a mixture of Jemon from Japan plus Kipchak Turkic is the closest mixture. And the second closest mixture is Kazakh plus Yakutia Neolithic. And the third closest mixture is Mongol plus Kipchak Turkic. Then there is that mixture of Polynesian, which is kind of like a low quality sample, plus Turkic, which is kind of interesting. The Polynesian sample is it's a part of the oracle, but it's not a very high quality sample. It's kind of like um, it's one person, and I feel like that person might be mixed. That's number one. It might be a mixed individual. That's number one thing, and it also is not a very high quality file, but it's still a part of the oracle. So there you go. Now with the Roginski 13, this individual is scoring 61.4% Siberian, 15.12% East Asian, 10.18% Amerindian, 6.1% Baltic. So this individual actually has a lot of Baltic admixture and 5.7% West Asian. This is crazy. So there is actually quite a lot of West Asian and Baltic admixture as well. This person has a lot of West Eurasian admixture, it seems. I'm not sure what to make of it. This person has a lot of white admixture, 6% Baltic and 5% West Asian. That's altogether um, that's 12% of European or West Eurasian admixture. Kind of crazy. A lot of white admixture in this individual. Okay, but overall, this person is still rather East Asian. And let's see for the phenotype oracle what this person looks like. So it looks like for the phenotype oracle, the closest phenotype to this person is kind of like this kind of East Asian Chinese. Looks Chinese to me, Chinese or Japanese, or maybe not Japanese. Looks more Chinese to me than anything else. Followed by this, which looks, I don't even know. I can't really, maybe Japanese. Followed by this, which to me looks Native American, but people in the comments keep saying Tibetan, so Tibetan, I guess. And for the mixed mode oracle, closest mixtures is a mixture of this Tibetan, I guess, plus Japanese, or Native American plus Japanese, or Tibetan, I guess, which looks really Native American plus Southeast Asian, or um, once again Tibetan plus looks like Chinese. So it looks like there's some Native American features in this individual's appearance. Very, very interesting. I feel like these Native American features, it's kind of difficult to quantify what qualifies somebody to have Native American features, but in reality, in practice, it is kind of like a combination of West Eurasian and East Eurasian facial traits. I feel like what might contribute to a East Eurasian person having these Native American facial features is, for example, having heterozygous genotype in EDAR gene, or like having instead of having homozygous genotype for EDAR, having two East Asian alleles, having heterozygous genotype in EDAR would be predisposing them to scoring more for the Native American, for example, like this instead of like this or like this. So let's see what they have for the EDAR gene. I'm quite curious what they score for that. So for this variation in EDAR, they have homozygous genotype for homozygous East Asian genotype. For this variation in EDAR, they also have homozygous East Asian genotype. But for this variation in EDAR, they actually have heterozygous genotype, which definitely contributed to them scoring some Native American groups in their oracle instead of just East Asian groups. Very, very interesting. We're gonna return to this panel a little bit later. Now for the Nashakot calculator oracle, their coloring and the other traits, I think I'll be adding the nose shape predictor as well. Um, it's already a part of the calculation. Here's the thing: the nose shape prediction is already a part of the calculation. It's already being calculated. It's just that I'm not explicitly showing it on the screen, and I'm thinking I'm gonna explicitly show it on the screen now as well because, like, why not? So it looks like this individual has got darkest brown eyes, definitely very dark eye color. Black hair, definitely black hair. There is no likelihood of any hair color other than black. For skin color, looks like they got light brown skin. That's quite definite. For hair texture, looks like they got straight hair. That is also quite definite. For coloring related variants found in the file, looks like they don't have blue eye haplotype 3 or 2, but they do have blue eye haplotype 1. Pretty common for East Asians. Um, they don't have any of the skin color and hair color and eye color lightening variants in SLC 45A2 or SLC 24A5. They do have the skin color lightening variants in keto G, and they don't have any of the hair color, ginger color variants in MC1R. Very, very interesting. Okay, now let's see for the biomarkers results. Let's see what genetic predispositions this person has. So it looks like this individual has a predisposition to higher than average levels of vitamin D. This looks like a person has a higher levels of LDL cholesterol, which is kind of bad. Lower levels of HDL cholesterol, which is good. Um, no, that's bad as well. That's bad as well. Lower levels of glucose, which is good. Higher levels of hemoglobin. Higher blood pressure, which is bad. Um, higher levels of iron, actually lower levels of iron in blood, which is good. Um, lower levels of sex hormone binding globulin in blood. Lower levels of red blood cell count in blood. Lower telomere length, which is bad. And lower height, so this person is a little bit shorter, which is also kind of bad. Okay, now let's see for the polygenic risk scores. Let's see what predispositions this person has. So it looks like much lower odds of thyroid cancer, which is really good. Lower odds of eczema, basically dermatitis. Lower odds of exfoliation glaucoma. Lower odds of pigmentary glaucoma. Lower odds of open-angle glaucoma. Lower odds of primary congenital glaucoma. Essentially, much lower odds of glaucoma overall. Lower odds of polycystic ovary syndrome. Lower odds of cataracts. Much higher odds of macular degeneration, age-related macular degeneration. Very interesting. So, very high predisposition to age-related macular degeneration. Very high predisposition to rheumatoid arthritis. Average predisposition to Tourette's. Average predisposition to epilepsy. Average predisposition to asthma. Um, Slightly below average predisposition to leukemia. Average predisposition to vitiligo. Slightly above average predisposition to myopia. Slightly above average predisposition to primary biliary cirrhosis, slightly below average predisposition to stroke, below average predisposition to male pattern hair loss, which is quite typical for East Asians. East Asians that usually don't lose their hair. Slightly above average predisposition to atrial fibrillation, slightly below average predisposition to deep vein thrombosis, typical odds for bipolar, typical odds for schizophrenia, very low odds for type 2 diabetes, very high odds for type 1 diabetes. Wow, that's kind of unfortunate. Yeah, so very low for type 2, very high for type 1, slightly above average for Alzheimer's, very low odds for multiple sclerosis. Very good stuff. So the thing that we really have to worry about here is the risk score for age-related macular degeneration, because that's really extreme. That's a really extreme score. For breast cancer, one risk variance for breast cancer. For testicular cancer, some risk variance for testicular cancer and keto G. Actually, that's kind of cooked. So yeah, so there's a lot of risk variance for testicular cancer and keto G, and they're all in a really important variance. So that's really messed up. For celiac disease, some risk variance for celiac disease in really important genes. Once again, Crohn's disease, I don't really recognize any of these. Riefenstein's, no risk variance for Riefenstein's. Parkinson's, no risk variance for Parkinson's. Really good to see. Gilbert's syndrome, free risk variance and free variations. Good stuff. Basal cell carcinoma, no risk variance for that. Jacob Creutzfeldt, um, two risk variants here, but I recognize this as quite common. And one risk variant here. Actually, we can explore that right now. Is it common to have risk variants here? Let's see. Let's find this out. This might be uncommon. Actually, it does not look like a common variation to have risk variants in. So this might be one of those cases where it's a miscall. This might be one of those cases where it's a miscall. Yeah. So it looks like the only thing we have to really watch out for out of all that we've seen here is the rheumatoid arthritis and the age-related macular degeneration. All right, let's explore the monogenic traits. It looks like this person is definitely a warrior, which means slower dopamine reuptake and higher dopamine levels, lower stress resiliency. This is really cool that I added this panel here. Essentially, it takes into account all of the warrior and warrior related genotypes, not just in COMT, but also in MAOA and in MAOB, all of the genes that are relevant to dopamine regulation. It's really cool. Like it's really thorough. Um, Nothing of this sort exists anywhere on the web currently. So like this is really cool. So he's definitely more of a warrior, which is pretty cool. It looks like he's got a predisposition to intermediate number of dopamine D2 receptor sites. Very interesting. It looks like he's got short form 5-HT-CLPR and higher risk of depression, which is typical for most humans. Looks like he's a carrier of one risk allele for dwarfism, which is kind of crazy. But I feel like one risk allele for dwarfism isn't gonna be enough to cause dwarfism. I feel like you gotta have at least two. That's just my guess. I don't really know if it's like if it's recessive or dominant, how it works. Um, okay. Looks like um for lactose persistence, he actually carries one derived variant for European lactose persistence and is likely not lactose intolerant. That's kind of crazy. How does he carry the variant for European lactose persistance? How does he? Well, I guess he does. He does have the 6% Baltic and 5.7% West Asian. So I guess he does have the 12% European admixture, and because of that, maybe because of that he has the 1%, the derived variant for European lactose persistence. That's kind of crazy. He has so little European admixture, and he's got European lactose persistence mutations. That's really crazy. For OXTR and the empathy gene, it looks like he's got a predisposition to lower empathy, which is very typical for East Asians. If you're an East Asian, you most likely will score something similar to this. Nothing is surprising here whatsoever. I'm not sure why that is. Why East Asians generally score like this, I don't know. For Africans, it's the opposite way around. Africans typically will score higher empathy. I don't know why that is. I have no clue. But that's just kind of how it is. It's statistical uh, reality. For diabetes, we don't really know. We don't really care for that. We remember the score. He was scoring really low for type 2 and really high for type 1. Um, for hemochromatosis, no risk variance for hemochromatosis. Really good to see. For Alzheimer's, we remember he was scoring really low for Alzheimer's. Actually, was he scoring really low or really high? I don't remember. Let's see. Hold on. Alzheimer's. Yeah, he was score. No, he was scoring average. He was scoring slightly above average. Let's see Alzheimer's once again. Um, let's. Okay, he actually has one risk allele for Alzheimer's here, in APOE, which is kind of surprising. But despite having one risk allele for Alzheimer's and APOE, he's scoring only slightly above average, which means he does have a lot of other genotypes that greatly reduce the odds of Alzheimer's. So he doesn't have to worry about that too much. Um, he looks like he's got a predisposition to lower odds of cardiovascular issues, which is really good stuff. For multiple sclerosis, he does not have any risk variants in the HLA gene, which is really good stuff once again. No risk variants in HLA for multiple sclerosis is really, really good. PCOS, we remember he was scoring typical for PCOS. So, but he does have a lot of genotypes that increase the odds of PCOS, though. Okay. Now for vitiligo, he actually has some genotypes in HLA that greatly increase the odds of vitiligo, like this one, for example. Here he's got a genotype in HLA that increases the odds for vitiligo by 2 times, which is very interesting. For facial morphology panel, he's got well, we already went over the ETAR genotypes, but he's got CT here, which reduces the mid-face length. He's got AG in this variation of POX3, which leads to intermediate odds of protruding nasal bridge, and the A allele increases the odds of protruding nasal bridge. So in his case, he's got intermediate odds of protruding nasal bridge. He's got smaller nose size. He's got likely higher nasolabial angle, which leads to nose pointing up. He's got likely lower odds of missing teeth. He's got thicker eyebrows. He's got two genotypes for thicker eyebrows, which is definitely quite interesting. Also, I've been told that I should get rid of the little face, like this face over here. It's not very aesthetically pleasing. I don't think I disagree with this. I like the face. I think it's quite good. I drew it myself. Uh, okay. For miscellaneous section, he does not have micropenis. He doesn't have micropenis for either of the two variations that test for it. So no micropenis here, no micropenis here either. Um, Better performing muscles likely sprinter rather than endurance athlete. Um, One fat gene variant and it was RS 9949609, high odds of obesity and sleep apnea. Okay. And for drug response, I'm not sure if I want to talk about this actually. Risk of heart failure due to beta blocker medications is essentially average. For cannabis-induced psychosis, looks like he's got slightly increased odds of cannabis-induced psychosis. Um, Looks like he's got one variant for increased pain sensitivity. Looks like he's got this very uncommon genotype, which also leads to lower pain tolerance. And he actually has 3 risk variants for pain hypersensitivity out of 12 total, which is really, really weird and uncommon. He definitely has a lot of has a predisposition to pain hypersensitivity, which is really, really unusual and uncommon. Um, for alcoholism panel, looks like he actually has a predisposition to alcoholism. His risk score for alcoholism is much higher than average. Really, really crazy. Much higher than average risks for alcoholism. Looks like he is not a carrier for any of the albinism variants, and he is also not a carrier for Melanesian blonde hair variants. Neither is he a carrier for variants for cleft lip or palate, and he also doesn't carry any risk variants for familiar Mediterranean fever. For We're gonna ignore that because we already saw the polygenic risk score page. For leukemia, we're gonna ignore that. Rare diseases panel. Let's look at that. Okay, so for rare diseases panel, let's see. Is there anything? Um, does he have any rare diseases? Does he have any rare conditions? He has this genotype which leads to a significant increase in the risk of rheumatoid arthritis. We remember he was scoring really high for the risk score for rheumatoid arthritis, so he has a predisposition to rheumatoid arthritis for sure. He has another genotype which also leads to a much higher increased risk for rheumatoid arthritis actually here as well. Um, He has another genotype which leads to a decreased DOA activity and negative response to non-steroid pain agents. Very interesting. He has another genotype which leads to increased risk of several autoimmune diseases. But overall, it looks like he's not really a carrier for any of the conditions that I look for, which is really good stuff. Um, okay. Looks like he's got 4 APOB risk variants for familiar hypercholesteremia out of 14 total. So 4 out of 14 is kind of in the dangerous category, in the dangerous zone a little bit. Definitely creeping up in the danger zone a little bit. So typically, you'd score like 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 6. That's a little. 4 out of 14 is a little bit higher than that. Um, Okay, Canavan syndrome, no risk variants for that. Really good to see. For HIV and AIDS panel, looks like he does not have any protective variants from HIV, which is kind of unfortunate. For HLA gene panel, looks like he does not really have any predispositions to autoimmune disease. I don't see that. Looks like he still has lower odds of autoimmune disease. But then again, like there is not a lot of information. It's kind of difficult to judge. There's like a big spread here. There's a big spread for sure between intermediate, lower, and highest odds. But still, the largest percentage I'm seeing is still lower odds. So I guess he still has lower odds of autoimmune disease. For muscular dystrophy myopathies, it looks like he does not have any risk variants for that. Adrenoleukodystrophy, no risk variants for that. Color blindness panel, no risk variants for color blindness. FTO gene panel, looks like he has all the genotypes for lower odds of obesity. He definitely does not have a predisposition to obesity whatsoever, based on FTO gene panel at least. Um, But others, if you look at the other genes that are also implicated in obesity, he actually does have some genotypes that are implicated in higher odds of obesity. Syncope panel, based on 7 S&Ps, he has way below average odds of syncope. Biotraits panel, looks like he's got, um, let's see, dry earwax, no body odor, likely East Asian ancestry, reduced colostrum, TT in this variation. So he's got no body odor, which is definitely quite interesting. Doesn't smell as much. He's got one copy of the Hunter Gatherer CLT-CL1 gene variant and one copy of the Farmer variant, which leads to intermediate ability to process carbs and sugars. Farmer Leo C. Quite interesting. Um, for vitamins and traits panel, I should add this to the biomarkers panel, but I'm not really sure. So he's got some genotypes that lower vitamin B12 levels. He's got the genotype which slightly increases B12 levels. He's got this genotype which decreases B6 levels, and he's got this genotype which increases vitamin C levels. Definitely quite interesting. And for blood group panel, it looks like he's got G- predicted blood type is type O. Type A is also quite possible, but most likely his blood type is type O. 74% likelihood of blood type O, only 25% likelihood of blood type A, and type B and type AB is quite pretty much out of the picture. Most likely his blood type is type O, the most common blood type in the world. Type A is sort of possible as well, but most likely it's type O. And other blood types not as likely, not as much, not as likely whatsoever. Well, that's pretty much all that I wanted to show you for this file, for this sample. Uh, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you had a fun. I hope you had fun watching it. I hope you were entertained by my talking during this 20 or 30 minutes that I was recording. And leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Also, of course, I want to remind you that you can download this file in 23andMe format from a link which is in the description of the video. And also, I do suggest that you go and buy my tool that I use for these videos to generate this content for you, to generate these reports. It is in the link to buying my tool, the executable in the description of the video. Uh, the executable as it is right now, it's not going to have everything that you see here on the screen. This is actually unreleased version, especially like this warrior versus warrior, this thing right here. It's not gonna be in the version that's released on itch, but currently, but it is going to be released on itch on May 22nd. So all of these updates are going to be on itch on May 22nd. So if you buy it now, you will be able to access the update on May 22nd. You don't have to buy it again. You can you will be able to access it for free. Uh, so you should buy it now. But I will be increasing the price. So if you buy it now while it's still $13, you can get it for free once I release all the updates later. But if you wait and you'd be like, oh, I'm not gonna buy it now, I'm gonna wait. Well, guess what? When I release all the updates on May 22nd, you're gonna have to pay not $13. You're gonna pay. I'm gonna make it. I don't know. I haven't decided on the price yet, but it's gonna be a lot higher.